Dandelion here. This will be a new kind of decode and hopefully it'll be fast. So Barack Obama just put out a tweet, hope you're ready, fall is here. And knowing how everyone is kind of sitting on the edge of their seat, white knuckle, wondering what these guys are up to, it's just kind of a, sort of a, I don't know, for me it's kind of like a baiting thing to tweet. Like he could tweet something comforting, although it says this account is run by Organizing for Action staff. So, and ones that are from him are signed BO. By the way, BO is 17, which is the Q. It's the high form of Q. That's the state that he was supposedly born in. And then by the menorah gematria, that's a 22. So this is a long statement, but we need to just take a look and see that we have a 276 here. That's the spirit of 76. And it's also a 9-6, and we've seen a lot of 9-6s and 6-9s, and I do believe that the 9-6 is related to a bunch of different dates this summer, including 9-6s and 9-15s, but also 8 dates, because 9 is made up of a 1 and an 8, and you might not think that they would move the numbers around that much, but I've seen it happen in August, so now we need to pay attention to that. So this number could also be phi related, because it's a 9 and a 6, and a 9 is a 1 and an 8, and 618 is the first 3 digits of phi, and 816 is reverse of the first 3 digits of phi, and 816 has Bride of Christ gematria connections and also stock market connections. So we just kind of need to have our minds be versatile for that. Here again we have a 9, a 9-6. A 6-9, as you know, is the keystone of the Freemason arch and has to do with balancing of the 4 elements. And 9-6, so 6-9 would be kind of like rising from the 6th to the 9th dimension, achieving a higher level, and the 9 to the 6 is coming back down again. And that does indicate the fall. And what they mean, it's very connected with the fall of the Nephilim, where they came from the 9th to the 6th. And actually the word God, after studying it, I have come to believe that it's a G is a 7, and O is a 15, and that's the 15th of July, and that date is the 196th day. And so I believe that there's a connection of this fall basically being a 9-6 type of a code, and we see that here. So in the English gematria too, we also have, English is basically simple times 6. So we also have a 7-6, and we have a 5-6-7. But what I think the standout number here is that the core is an 11, and the outer field here, if you study with me and you follow my work, I introduce a type of gematria that I haven't seen anybody else do, which treats words as toroidal fields, having an inner core and an outer valence, and I feel like it's proved itself to be very useful and valid again and again. So here the core would be 11 and the outer field would be a 7. So that's 7-11. That's a sacred ratio of the pyramids, and I believe that the pyramids and their ratios have to do with evolution, ultimately have to do with the evolution of human consciousness, and they were made by, I don't think that they were made by the Nephilim. I think that the Nephilim kind of moved into them and acted like they belonged to them, but I think that was a culture that was possibly from another age of the sun, as the Mayans would probably put it. So just to be thorough, we also have a 925 and a 921. Today is a 921, and this is my first tweet I've ever done of Obama, but what I have found in the headlines, if you do a CNN headlines, or the phrases that they say, or are in quotations, they often have the date in it, so I expect that will probably be a trend as we go along here. So this has a 921, a 925, and a 926 in it. Just to point out, the 926 has to do with the main heading that I've been talking about in Washington, D.C., going from the Capitol building to the Lincoln Memorial along the line of where it looks like Horus Sr. is lying and Isis is sitting there on him. So it's just very interesting that these words, they pick this very precisely. Now, I am going to break this in half as well. So the reason why I broke it in half so that what you can learn how to do this on your own is just the phrasing of it. Hope you're ready, dash, fall is here. This is also a very, this statement I have seen outside of Jiffy Lubes, something to do with readiness, where they say, are you ready? We are, and then they have a price of $9.22, but they're alluding to Yom Kippur, because Jiffy Lube sells oil. Yom Kippur is about atonement. Atonement in the Bible is about whether you have enough oil or not. So do you see how kind of sinister that is to deliver a question like that in such a flippant way on a sidewalk sign? You know, hope you're ready. We are. You know, they have all the oil, and you're not sure whether you have enough oil, because they know what's going to happen and we don't. We just have to sit here and look at the numbers and, you know, make videos. Meanwhile, they're like, you know, plumping up their pillows in the bunkers or whatever they're doing. I don't know what they're up to. Okay, so here, hope you're ready is a 99181. I'd like to put this number through Wikipedia, but I'm going to try to make a short video. In the English gematria, of course, we have this is what I would call a Bride of Christ gateway, because it has the 816. The 816, the reason why I call that the Bride of Christ is because the gematria relates to Bride of Christ, and I have also seen this gematria active in a lot of these news stories in August. If you're new to my channel, I'm repeating a few of these things for you, and I hope the rest of you don't mind, because I just started Twitter, and I'm putting out a shorter Pope series. I'm hoping that we're going to have some new people who are interested in the code, and so I'm going to try and introduce some of these topics again as we go along. If you're new to my channel, though, and I'm not introducing enough topics, just hang in there and just relax. I hope you enjoy it, and I will eventually drop enough hints as we go along, or you can check back on some of my earlier videos. So in the Jewish gematria, there is a 17 here. I do talk a lot lately about a recent discovery that I made, that Q is 17, and it's the power symbol. It has to do with the floor plan of the UN. It also is derived from the word Hi, which is the abbreviation of Hawaii, the last state, but it's also how pi is written in Greek. So that's why, so when we see 25s and 17s, and when we also see multiples of 25s and 17s, we need to be aware that these people are very conscious of pi, so they hide pi in lots of different places, especially the names of the elites. Well, also, I've seen a lot of 78s, a lot of different places, and it hasn't been ringing a lot of bells, so I've kind of been ignoring it. You know, it's 15, maybe it's the year, I'm not sure. So, but I just want to point that out. I do want to be able to point things out even if I don't understand them. I'm seeing a lot of 78s, and I'm not sure why. So maybe you know why. If you know why, leave me something in the comments, and can help us all move forward. All right, fall is here. This is a meridian and a heading that people have done work on. And Casey with Enter the Stars, I believe he has a video about this. I think he calls it a meridian. I'm not sure whether it was a while ago, so I wasn't really sure about all the words. Maybe he means a meridian, or maybe he means a heading from the Hoover Dam and points right to Hawaii, Kenya. He had a video on that, and he also showed that many of our most prominent assassinations are along this either meridian or heading. So this is 44 is a kill number, and it's good to be aware of how this number is so active right now. Zachary K. Hubbard has done a lot of work on the Pope's numbers, and he does a lot of Pythagorean gematria, and I don't do that. And I don't know if it's Pythagorean gematria, but he says that the 44 does tie into a lot of Jesuit and Pope numbers as well, so we need to keep an eye on that. 44 is the clock number. That was very active recently. In the I Stand with Ahmad, the Ahmed hoax. That was a hoax. We need more words, because it was a certain kind of a hoax, you know. If you just use the word hoax, of course anybody can disagree with you, and they'll be right, because you basically need more words to describe exactly what was going on there. Clock is 44, and I did a video recently about the very beginning of a breakdown of a clock cipher, and what that had to do with this upcoming week in September that we need to pay attention to. I'm not sure what 570 is about. But let's scroll down, take a look. So in the Jewish gematria, we need to pay attention to these esoteric connections with the Jewish gematria of 244, Hagia Sophia, satanic, the left, Salvaggio, I don't know how to say that, Kardashian, Mockingbird, Take Me Home, and then this one is really pretty compelling. Sirius, Hussein, I Am That I Am, Obama apparently said this. Yes, We Can, Obama said that. Neptune, I've noticed, I watched a concert of Alison Krauss in the White House, and there were tridents all over the back wall. Couldn't stop looking at those. Son of God, Kundalini, Scorpio, pineal gland, Pregnant Tuesday, Pentagram, Johnson, It Is Done, Halloween. Obama has a lot of Halloween tie-ins that we need to be aware of. Mostly I learned that on Casey at End of the Star, so you can go back and search his channel for that. He doesn't talk about it as much anymore, so you might have to go back and put it in a search engine for that. Peter Pan, Neverland, Jim Jones, goodness gracious, look at all this. Loch Ness, Carnegie Hall. Every now and you come across these, and for me it's weird because it's a number like 95. It adds to 14. Well, we know that they care about 14 because that's halfway through the length that they let the Twin Towers stand, and now we are 14 years from the fall of the Twin Towers. They like this number 14. Well, of course it adds to 5, and that's the pentagram. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's the whole thing. I'm not sure. But these numbers that end in 5 sometimes stump me, or the ones that end in 0. So the ones that end in 0 are probably just a double or a multiple of the ones that end in 5, like an even multiple. All right, well, there's your quick decode. That's as fast as I could do it, 12 minutes on Barack Obama. Oh, yeah, well, there was something in there. We have to pay attention to that. Something was said in there about the bride of Christ and a warning and dates to come. So very interesting, right?